Hey race fans, it's NASCAR Know-It-All here with race recap from Loudon. Going from last week being a 0 by finishing 20th to beating the 20 today. Congratulations to Kevin Harvick and the Ditech Chevrolet as he wins the Bad Boy Off-Road 300 today at New Hampshire Motor Speedway in Loudon. And Harvick will move on to the next round in the chase for the Sprint Cup Series. Kevin Harvick qualified 19th today, and I thought they would have done better in qualifying to prepare themselves for today's race. But moving up through the field, I knew right away Harvick was going to be a factor in most of this race. Harvick was able to take the win away from a dominant Matt Kenseth, who won last year's race and the race from early July. So that spoiled Kenseth's shot at 3 New Hampshire wins in a row, and tying Jeff Burton's record for the most wins at the track with 4. Kyle Busch finished 3rd, Brad Keselowski was 4th, and Kurt Busch finished 5th. Meantime, my guy Chase Elliott, we had a great run today, but we got beat by a lot of those guys. Were flying by us on 4 first stars and we finished 13th. Still not a bad result. We're still 9th in the chase going into Dover, where I'll be next weekend. We're 16 points above the cut line, and we ran well there in the spring, so I'm optimistic that we'll have a good run, but we have to be conservative. Anything can happen going into Dover next week. If you all remember what happened last year, if you watched it on TV or you were there at the track watching that, we all saw what happened to Jimmy Johnson. He had a comfortable lead over the cut line going into Dover, but a rear axle problem forced him to the garage, and he automatically missed the chase. So a lot of these guys have to have solid runs this coming weekend at, the Dover International Speedway. I thought Kevin Harvick fueled the fire after his 20th place run last week. I thought last week Harvick could have had a car that could have won the race. I mean, you saw how good he was at the beginning of the race, but he wasn't able to capitalize on that solid run. I think this win fueled the fire for the 4 teams, showing, hey, let's put last week behind us and let's go win this race. And they did just that. They win this race, and they're now moving on with Martin Truex Jr., who finished 7th, and he was one of the dominant cars today as well. I mean, it's a clean race. I mean, if you look at the trends of the last few races at New Hampshire, we have clean races laps in the early portion of the race. Like 150 laps, we usually have 2 or 3 cautions. And towards the end, we usually have a wreck fest. Well, it was mostly a clean race today. I mean, we had 1 caution early on, then we had like 5 cautions in the last few laps of the race. So all in all, it was a pretty clean race. And I felt like everybody used their heads today, and it was a decent run for a couple of guys. Now, the guys below the cut line going into Dover are Jamie McMurray, Austin Dillon, Tony Stewart, and, no surprise, Chris Buescher. So next weekend, it's do or die for all those guys. You have to win to get in, or hope somebody ahead of you in the points has a problem. And that has happened before. It has happened. So anything can happen next week going into Dover, where I'm going to be, actually. It was all in all, it was a good race. Everybody kept their head straight, and it was a pretty good race. And I felt like Rodney Childers made the right calls for Kevin Harvick in order for him to win the race. So it was a pretty competitive event for everybody out there. And next weekend should be fun for Dover, where I'm going to be at. So I will give you an inside scoop of what I'm going to be doing other than going to see the race next weekend at Dover. Earlier this year, I won Mobile One Experience passes with free tickets at a competition from Salvo Auto Parts, where they had Clint Boyer's Scale 15 Peak Anti-Freeze Chevrolet out there. Me and my dad won free tickets. We also won free passes to go inside the track, and we get to go to this Mobile One tent where we get food and we get to do a Q&A, and the driver we get to Q&A with is from Stuart Haas, and who better to Q&A than Tony Stewart? I mean, if I'm going to be a media person in the future, this is my first step into that direction by interviewing the man making his final season. I have the perfect questions on for him. I'm not going to ask him too much because I know there's going to be other people there that are going to want to ask him some questions. I know one of my questions is going to be, how do you approach Dover being outside the cut line, and how would you describe your final season with Mike Bugaravich as the crew chief? So I can't wait for next weekend. It's going to be fun. Hope the weather's good. And I hope everybody liked today's race, and hopefully you all have a nice night. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Put a good Google like on this video if you enjoyed it. And yeah, have a nice night, guys. And I will do a early Saturday preview for next Sunday's race, and then I'll be videoing next Sunday while I'm at the track, taking pictures, and can't wait. So have a nice night.